Greetings. Today we are going to once again work with Microsoft Excel, where we will be introducing some new features that we have not touched on in the past. The main feature we're going to be introducing is the use of multiple worksheets. Up until now, we've been working on a single sheet, and today we're going to have about 4 or 5 different worksheets. The exercise we'll be simulating is a company that sells fruits. We're going to then collect the data into a summary sheet to report for the 3 months the grand totals for sales and income. At the end, we'll also be doing a chart that summarizes the sales activity. Another feature that we're going to be introducing is the use of the grouping and ungrouping of tasks in order to simplify entering data and also creating a uniform presentation across all the worksheets. So let's take a quick look at what the sample looks like. This is our summary sheet. It's called the Q1 Quarter 1 activity, where it's going to collect data for 3 different months from each one of those months. This is the total revenue for January, for February, for March, the cost of items for January, February, and March, and then the net income for January, February, and March. And it's going to total the values over here. The data is coming from 3 worksheets at the bottom. So here at the bottom, typically we will see just one single sheet when you open up Excel, but here we're going to have several of them. So here's the summary sheet. This is what we're looking right now. Next to it, we will take a look at January, and this is the activity for January, and I've clicked on it. So here's the January activity. February, this is the February activity with the sales for February, and March, the sales for March. As I move between the 3 worksheets, you notice that the format is identical, meaning that each one of them has a title, has headings with a particular style, and it has over here, this column has the names of the products being sold, all in a similar style. The total for the particular month also has a particular style. And as we move across the different worksheets, notice that everything looks very, very similar. The summary chart also looks similar, where instead of the products being listed, what we have over here is the months. So let's look at the activity chart, which is going to collect the data from the activity chart and is going to demonstrate it here. So let's see how we're going to go about doing today's exercise. What we're going to do is we're going to start with a blank file. So I'm going to open up a brand new worksheet. I'm going to create a new worksheet with a blank file. The first part, what we're going to do is we're going to create multiple worksheets. We're in sheet 1. Right to the right of it, you're going to see a plus sign, and we're going to click on these plus signs to create 3 more sheets. So this is sheet 1. If I click on it, now I have sheet 2. If I click on it again, sheet 3, and I click on it again, sheet 4. We can rename these sheets, and what we're going to do is right click on it, and when we right click on it, we can choose the rename command, and for the first one we're going to call it summary. The second one, we're going to right click on it and we're going to rename it, and we're going to call it January. We're going to apply now colors to these different tabs, and the way we do colors so we can distinguish them. So I'm going to click over here on summary, and I'm going to change the tab color, and here is the tab color, and I'm going to choose a color, and what I'm going to use for the color is maybe this blue. Yellow. So here's 4 different ones. As we click on them, notice that they fade in color, which tells you, helps you find out which one of the sheets you're currently active on. So summary, January, February, and March. So the next thing we're going to do is group these sheets in order to be able to do something in common with all of them. So the technique of grouping, what it does is it allows you to go ahead and group the charts so that you can enter data and apply formatting to different sheets so that it all has a common look. So you want to group worksheets whenever you wish to have a consistent cell content or cell format, and you ungroup the sheets and select a single sheet whenever you want to do a entering a format or data that is specific to the sheet. So let's look how we're going to do that. So the first thing we're going to do is group these 4 sheets, and the technique to do that is very simple. So I'm going to click on Summaries, the first sheet, and then I'm going to press the key, the control key on your keyboard. And when you do that, then you click on the other sheets. So I'm clicking on January, February, and March. When I do that, notice that all of them have become pale. They've lost their color, indicating that they are grouped. Also, I want you to look at the top of the screen and notice over here the name of the file has changed in the heading. Book 1 is the name of this worksheet or this work file. Next to it is the word group. It's telling me that I'm working now in group mode. All the sheets are selected. So what am I going to do at this particular point? I'm going to go to row 4, and in row 4 I'm going to enter some data that's going to become eventually the headings of the worksheets. So I'm going to enter the word product, and I'm going to move over and enter the word revenue, the word cost, and finally net income. Under product, I'm going to enter apples, oranges, and lemons. Finally, totals. The next thing I'm going to do is take the 4 headings. These are the 4 headings right here, and I'm going to apply a style. It doesn't matter which style you can select any style that you wish. So I'm going to go from the style list. I'm going to select a particular color, and I'm going to select this color. And then I'm going to do the same thing for apples, oranges, and lemons. And I'm going to apply a cell style for that, maybe a paler shade of the one I did before. Now I'm going to ungroup the cells. I'm going to right click on one of the sheets, and down here in the list I find a command that says ungroup sheets. When that happens, notice that the worksheet tabs now have regained their color, and on the top in the window header on top the word group is gone. So here's our summary sheet. We know that's a summary sheet because it's pale. The 4 headings: a product, revenue, cost, and net income, and apples, oranges, and totals. I'm going to move to January, and notice that in the January sheet that was empty before, I have now values that were not there before. So I have in February the same thing, and in March. And in the summary sheet, we're going to insert some word art up here. So the purpose of inserting the word art is because the sheets are essentially indistinguishable. So we want to put something in the sheet that distinguishes it from the others. So over here, I'm going to go and insert word art. So we've done this before. We're going to go into the Insert tab in the bottom, and under the text, I'm going to select the drop-down list, the word art, and I'm going to select something that I like, and I'm going to select this value over here, and I'm going to type the following. I'm going to place this word art on top of the table. The font is rather large, so it's not going to fit. So I'm going to click on the edge of this text box. And I'm going to go to the home, and I'm going to reduce the size of the font, and I'm going to make it something that is easier to fit on top. So maybe a size of 28 would be good. I can drag this down and put it on top here, and it fits nicely. I have skipped ahead and entered word art for the 3 worksheets, so I'm back on my summary sheet. And if I visit January and February and March, you're going to notice that each one has its own heading that distinguishes it. Our next step is to enter data for the 3 months. Each one is going to have individual data. Let's start with the summary sheet. So now I'm going to change the word instead of product, and I'm going to write the word month. Below that, I'm going to change apples into January, oranges into February, lemons, I'm going to change into March. Instead of revenue, I'm going to enter total revenue. Instead of cost, I'm going to enter total cost. And instead of net income, I am going to have total net income. Because the headings now do not fit, I'm going to select the 4 headings from month all the way over to total net income, and I'm going to apply word wrap. So there's a couple of different ways. So I'm going to go to the home screen. Under alignment, you will find a button that is for word wrapping, and I'm going to do that. And now you see that the words have wrapped. I found a little typo in here. Let me correct it right now. Total revenue. So this fits nicely. And I'm going to enter sales and costs for January. So at this time, I've entered data for the 3 months. So we have here we have January, the values for January, February, and March. So now I'm going to do the following. I'm going to group worksheets just for the 3 months. I'm just going to include only the 3 months, and control key on the keyboard, then click on February and March. Notice that the summary sheet is not in the group because it has its own distinct colors. The other ones are a little bit paler. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to enter a formula now in the net income, and the formula that I'm going to enter is the formula to calculate what is the net income. So revenue is how much money was made in the business for a particular product. In this case, apples. There was for the month of January, there was revenue of $15,000. For the same month, the cost of those apples were $14,000. So we want to enter in the net income a formula that is going to calculate what's the net income. So in other words, what is the profit or loss for that particular month? What we want to do is create a formula. And to create a formula, as in the past, we always start a formula by entering a equal sign. So we want to enter a formula that is going to take this value and subtract this value from it. So I'm going to go up in here. I can either click on the cell or I can click on the formula bar, and I'm going to enter the formula right here. I'm not going to show you how to do that on screen. This is something that you should be able to figure out at this point in time. So I'm going to pause briefly while I enter that formula. Okay, I've entered the formula now for this particular transaction. What is the net income? The net income is this value times this value, and it's 1,000. It's what we would expect. So the next thing that we're going to do, and it's part of the magic of Excel, what we're going to do is we're going to reproduce the formula that's now in this cell. We're going to reproduce it to the other cells. So you can do it the easy way or the hard way. The hard way is to repeat the formula by re-entering the formula in each one of the cells below it. But there's also the technique that we've used in the past, which is to use the autofill. So that's what I'm going to use. I'm going to move my mouse until it's on this little dot that's at the bottom right corner of the cell. That's the autofill handle, and I'm going to move the cursor until it becomes a crosshair. I'm going to click and hold and just drag it down. And that's going to reproduce the formula on the 2 cells below it. The next item that I want to do is I want to add up the 3 values on top over here. I'm going to create a total there. I'm going to total all these values. And once again, there's a hard way and an easy way. So the easy way to do it is to use a formula that we have used in the past. It's called the AutoSum. So I'm going to create on the home, and under the editing group, I find the AutoSum button, and I'm going to click under it, and there's the sum for AutoSum. And when I hit enter it, now I have the AutoSum under it, which is now total all the values that are on top. Once again, I'm going to use the autofill handle, and move it over to the right. So now we have, for the month of January, all the values, the formulas that are calculating the net income and the formulas that are calculating the totals for each one of the columns. So what I'm going to do next is formatting. I'm going to format this data over here so that it shows a little bit better. So what I'm going to do is select the cells that contain the data. So, and the calculations, not the headings. So I'm going to select all that and I'm going to apply a cell style. And the cell style that I'm going to select is the currency cell style. So I've selected all the cells. I'm going to go now under cell styles and I'm going to select the currency setting, and I'm going to apply currency cell style under it. So it's a nice style, as you notice. It has put commas on the 1,000 values, and it added dollar signs at the end of it. The last item I'm going to do now is I'm going to select. So I'm going to select now the 4 columns for revenue, cost, and net income, and I'm going to apply what's called the auto fit so that everything fits nicely. And what I'm going to do is go under format, and I'm going to put auto fit column width and click on that. And when I do that, it's going to fit all the columns so everything fits nicely. Finally, I'm going to ungroup the worksheets. So they're on group. Once again, they've come back with their original color, and I'm sitting now in the month of January. And if I visit February and March, notice that in February and March, where we had individual values, and there's still the individual values over here, we have the formulas have been entered automatically because they were grouped from when we were working on the January sheet. All the formulas were reproduced into February. And when we go to March, we notice also that it's formatted very, very nicely also. Notice that in the month of March in particular, under apples, under net income, we find a little bit it's a little bit different. Here the value 500 is on a special notation. Where you see the number that is surrounded by parentheses. Under the currency work style, whenever you have a negative value, the negative value is presented surrounded by the parentheses, and that is the case here. If you notice, you have a revenue, that's how much money came in, of 0, and a cost of 500. So for this particular month, there was a loss. Now, what we're going to go is in the summary sheet. And the summary sheet has no data. So what we're going to do is we're going to get data from the 3-month worksheets and I'm going to place it here. And what we're going to do is enter a cell reference for that purpose. So the cell reference is going to contain, in this particular point, and I'm looking at cell B5, what we need here is a reference to the cell in the January worksheet that has the total revenue for the month of January. The easy way to do this is as follows. I'm going to select the cell where I want to contain the formula for the January total revenue. And I'm going to navigate briefly over to the formula bar. And over here, I'm going to enter that formula. And as all formulas, we're going to start with an equal. And now that I've entered the equal, I want to go ahead and navigate to January and look for the total revenue for January. And the total revenue for January is in cell B8. And I'm going to click on cell B8. And now that I clicked here, I've hit enter. Here's the value that comes from B8. And if you look at the formula bar, you're going to notice a new notation you have not seen in the past. The formula reads equal January, exclamation point B8. January is the name of the worksheet where the cell is located. So in the worksheet January, in cell B8 is the value that we're interested in. Separating the name of the worksheet and the name of the cell, there's an exclamation point. We're going to go visit February. And in February, we're going to do the same thing. We're going to repeat the same technique. We're going to go click on equal. visit February and the total revenue for February, enter, and the same thing for March. Now that we have the three values selected, so the total revenue for January, February, March, what I'm going to do is I'm going to select the three cells right there and use the autofill handler and move them to the right. This looks a little bit strange at this point in time because you see all these pound signs in the cell. What it just means is that the values that are being displayed do not fit. So I'm going to grab the three columns and I'm going to format them using AutoFit column width. And as you see before, the values are there, they're just hidden because the columns were not wide enough to display the values. Now we're still in the summary sheet and I want to total these values down here, and we're going to use our old friend AutoSum. So I'm going to skip ahead. I've entered the formula for the total revenues for the summary sheet, and I'm going to autofill to the right. Now that I have the total for the three values or the three columns of total revenue, total cost, and total net income, what I'm going to do is format the totals on a particular style. I want that total style to be available in all the worksheets, so I'm going to group all the worksheets. And now, so I clicked on summary, held control to go to January, February, March. Now I'm going to highlight total revenue, total cost, and total net income, and I'm going to apply a particular cell style. The cell style that I'm interested in is the total cell style. And here it is. Now I'm going to ungroup the worksheets. And let's visit all the worksheets, and you notice here in summary, in January, February, and March, they'll have a similar format with the totals of now, the total style is now uniform across all the worksheets. The next thing we're going to do is insert a chart to reflect the values in the summary worksheet. And this is similar to work we have done before. So we're going to select the data on this worksheet. So we're going to select the headings and the row names, but we're not going to select the totals. We're going to insert a 2D clustered bar chart. So here's a 2D clustered bar chart. And here we are. This is a 2D clustered bar chart. So what we're going to do with that 2D clustered bar chart is we're going to move it to a new sheet. This is something we've done before. Click under the chart design tab, and under the move chart I'm going to select a new sheet, and the new sheet is going to have the name. And because I selected a new sheet, as soon as I click OK, a new sheet is going to be created and this chart is going to be moved into it. So here we have the Q1 activity chart, and here is the chart right here. One of the things that we're going to do on here is we're going to make some changes to the chart, including a chart title, and we're going to switch the rows and the columns. Let's do that first. So I'm going to right click over here, and on the select data we're going to have a button that says switch rows and columns. So here the series, you notice that the series reads January, February, March, and the columns or the category is going to be total revenue, total cost, and total net income. What we want to do is reverse this. So by clicking over here, I'm going to click on OK. Now you notice that we have the 3 months on top, and then the legend, which is going to be on the bottom, is going to read total net income, total revenue, total cost. So there's a couple of other adjustments. I'm going to go quickly through them because they are already well explained in the instructions. This is the final chart after doing the editing. Notice that we have the legend is on top. We have renamed the chart and we have switched the rows and columns so that the legend is now the 3 colors over here representing the total revenue, the total cost, and what is the profit or loss. So the next thing we're going to do is the following. We have these three. We have the three monthly sheets have values for apples, oranges, and lemons. So what we're going to do is introduce a new fruit. So we're going to group the three charts. We're going to select the row that has oranges, and we're going to right-click on it and insert a new row. So now we have a blank row between apples and oranges. So here we're going to insert a new fruit. The fruit is going to be bananas. And we're going to leave the revenue and cost, we're going to leave blank because that's going to be different for each one of the months. And we're in a group format right now. But over here, this cell, and if you look at the cell bar, or the formula bar, you notice it's empty. What I'd like to do is put in this bar the same formula that we had on the cells on top and on bottom, so that we reproduce once again the calculation of net income. So I'm going to do that, and now I'm going to ungroup. So now in January, I'm going to enter values for bananas, and I'm going to do the same thing for February and March. I have skipped ahead and entered values for all the 3 months, so I'm going to visit now. This is January, this is February, and this is March. There's a little bit of a discrepancy here. Notice that March doesn't fit. So I'm going to group once again. I'm going to now do it backwards. I'm going to click on March. I'm going to hit February and March, and February and January so that they're selected. I'm going to select all three columns, and on all three columns I'm going to format them and adjust column autofit column width. So everything fits nicely, and then I'm going to right click and ungroup. And now I'm going to visit the other ones to see if they fit. Everything fits nicely. And in fact, if I go into my summary sheet, now maybe it doesn't fit. So let me go ahead and do that just for the summary sheet. And all these values now, if you notice right now, I'm in January. This is the total revenue for January. If I visit January, if you recall from before, the total revenue for January was $30,000. But remember that we added bananas. So now we have $40,000. This $40,000 has been automatically updated up here in the total cost for January, and here it is. And the total cost has been updated for January in the summary sheet, and here it is, the $40,450. And if I go to the summary, if I go to the chart, we're going to notice that for January, the total cost, if I just highlight it, there's $40,000 right there. So this is the end of the exercise on it. I hope you enjoyed it and found these techniques of grouping and ungrouping very interesting, and it saves you a lot of work, and it's also guaranteed that the formulas are consistent and the appearance are consistent in numerous sheets. And also the special technique of how do you reference a cell that's in another sheet. Once again, I'm going to go visit here the summary sheet, and if I look at the total revenues, for and if I look at the formulas, the individual formulas for the various values inside here, for example, January total revenue, if I look at the formula bar, it says equal January exclamation point B9, and this is the B9 cell in the sheet for January. That's all I have for this lab. I hope you enjoyed and you found this useful. And make sure you submit it by the due date. If you have any questions, visit or you want to contribute any information or comments, visit this week's module and look for the lab discussion where you can post questions or post comments or answer questions that our fellow classmates may have placed. See you later. Bye.